It's Thanksgiving Day in the United States. Today, scores of families gather to feast, watch a parade, plan out their Black Friday shopping schedule, watch football, and give thanks for the things they have to be thankful for in their lives. Thanksgiving Day hasn't always been celebrated in the manner that it is today. In fact, the day has gone through several incarnations. And of course, I would be remiss to exclude those in the U.S. who do not celebrate the day and have every right not to. Today we're going to learn about the ever-changing history of Thanksgiving and what that day represents for many in this country. So if you're curious, let's take a walk through history. Many people only know of Thanksgiving from what they learned in grade school, the feast with the Native Americans and the Pilgrims. Pilgrims faced a difficult time the first year in the New World. The local Native Americans welcomed them, taught them how to cultivate the land and grow new crops to sustain their colony. A feast of thanks was hosted by the Pilgrims where turkey, ham, corn was shared with the natives, solidifying their newfound friendship. Well, what if I told you that what you learned in grade school wasn't exactly the case? Most historians now agree that the, quote, first Thanksgiving probably wasn't the first feast with Native American and non-Native participants, which makes sense if you consider that the Pilgrims weren't the first people from the Old World to inhabit the Americas. Nevertheless, the tale of the Pilgrims' feast with the natives should be told. In September of 1620, the Mayflower left Plymouth, England, carrying 102 passengers. 66 days later, they dropped anchor near the tip of what is now Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Whether that was their intended destination is up for debate and is a very long tale. Briefly, though, rough seas prevented the Mayflower from sailing to Virginia. Not everyone on board the ship was a Puritan. There were talks of mutiny. It was not a good situation. Fortunately, passengers finally banded together, signed the Mayflower Compact, which was the first self-governing document in the New World, and began the task of surviving a New England winter. Now, throughout that first brutal winter, most of the colonists actually remained on board the ship. They simply didn't have enough time to scout the land and build shelters before the weather turned dangerous. Because of this, they suffered from exposure, scurvy, outbreaks of contagious disease, all the while riding out a brutally cold winter in the Mayflower's hull. In March, those who survived moved ashore, where they received an astonishing visit from a member of the Abenaki tribe who greeted them in English. Several days later, he returned with another Native American who was the last survivor of the Patuxet tribe named Tisquantum. Squanto, as the Pilgrims called him, had been kidnapped by an English explorer and sold to monks in a Spanish monastery, who focused on his education. Squanto eventually traveled to England and then returned to his homeland, only to find out that his entire tribe had been wiped out by an epidemic. Now, Squanto was a godsend to the Pilgrims. He lived with them for about 20 months, teaching them how to cultivate crops, extract sap from maple trees, catch fish in the rivers, and avoid poisonous plants. The Pilgrims enjoyed the protection of the local Wampanoag tribe. The Wampanoag leader, Osamequin, reached out to the Pilgrims and wanted an alliance with them, not because he was innately friendly, but because his people had also been decimated by an epidemic, and Osamequin saw the Pilgrims as an opportunity to fend off rival tribes. Safety in numbers, if you will. So, how about the Thanksgiving feast? Well, there are conflicting stories about that day, or should I say, 3 days. What is known is that the bounty from the year's harvest was so good that a 3 day celebratory feast was organized. What's unclear is how the Native Americans ended up there. Some accounts say that the Native Americans were invited to the feast as a thank you for all their help surviving the first year and their continued promise for mutual cooperation. Other accounts say the pilgrims were so overjoyed with their bounty that they shot their guns in the air as a part of their celebration. The Wampanoag, hearing the gunfire, rushed to Plymouth to aid the pilgrims, only to find a feast instead of a battle. The pilgrims invited the natives to stay and eat, and the rest, as they say, is history, even if it is a curious history at that. Thanksgiving hasn't always represented that feast between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoags. In 1789, George Washington issued the nation's first Thanksgiving proclamation. He called upon Americans to express their gratitude for the happy conclusion to the country's War of Independence and successful ratification of the U.S. Constitution. In 1817, New York became the first of several states to officially adopt an annual Thanksgiving holiday. Each state celebrated it on a different day, however, and the American South remained largely unfamiliar with the tradition. In 1827, the noted magazine editor and prolific writer Sarah Hale, author of the nursery rhyme Mary Had a Little Lamb, launched a campaign to establish Thanksgiving as a national holiday. She published numerous editorials and sent scores of letters to governors, senators, presidents, and other politicians for 36 years, earning her the nickname Mother of Thanksgiving. President Abraham Lincoln finally heeded her request in 1863 at the height of the American Civil War, imploring all Americans to ask God to commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife, and to heal the wounds of the nation. He scheduled Thanksgiving for the final Thursday in November. In 1865, Thanksgiving was celebrated the first Thursday of November because of a proclamation by President Andrew Johnson, and in 1869, President U.S. Grant chose the third Thursday for Thanksgiving Day. In all other years, until 1939, Thanksgiving was celebrated as Lincoln had designated, the last Thursday in November. When 1939 arrived, Franklin Delano Roosevelt moved the holiday up a week, attempting to stimulate retail sales during the Great Depression. Roosevelt's plan, known sarcastically as Franksgiving, was signed into legislation in 1941. Although the history of Thanksgiving is important for many reasons, maybe we should be asking what Thanksgiving means to each of us. What does it represent for you? Thanksgiving is indeed a polarizing day, and perhaps for good reason. According to nativehope.org, Thanksgiving is a day of mourning and protest since it commemorates the arrival of settlers in North America and the centuries of oppression and genocide that followed. Organized by the United American Indians of New England in 1970, the fourth Thursday in November is recognized as the National Day of Mourning for Native Americans and their allies. Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the genocide of millions of Native people, the theft of Native lands, and the relentless assault on Native culture. Participants in the National Day of Mourning honor Native ancestors and the struggles of Native people to survive today. It is a day of remembrance and spiritual connection, as well as a protest of the racism and oppression which Native Americans continue to experience. Thanksgiving is also a difficult time for many people struggling with their own self-worth. Many are alone during Thanksgiving, having no one left in their life to celebrate the day with. Some also feel there is little for them to celebrate in their lives. And some have lost all hope or even the will to go on. For anyone watching who feel as if they no longer want to continue, please call this number below before you do anything else. The people at the other end of the line want to talk with you, help you, and let you know that you are loved. As so many of you prepare for your feast and games and fellowship with each other today, please take a moment to consider those in this world who have less to be thankful for. Then consider all the things you have that you are thankful for, and perhaps how you can make the world a better place for those in need. And to all of you watching, please know that I am thankful for you. I've made so many new friends because of this channel. Our community is so overwhelmingly supportive of each other. I love our conversations, and I love watching the conversations you have with each other. It is the blessing you have given to me, and for that I am grateful. So, from me and my family to you and yours, have the happiest of holidays this year. God bless you all. And I'll see you next time as we explore more curious history. Take care.